Don't be afraid to fail publicly because most people don't care. There's always that feeling of, oh, I don't want to try this thing because if I fail, it's going to be such a public loss. Oh, if I quit my job and I go try to start this company, if I have to go get a new job, people are like, oh, see, I told you so. You're just like the rest of us. You're not better than us. And I think that stops a lot of people. They're afraid to put it out there and to try something bold because if it doesn't work out, they're afraid of the shame. They'll feel like it's a hit on their self-worth as an individual.
Welcome to Evoke Greatness, the podcast for bold leaders and big dreamers who refuse to settle. I'm your host, Sunny. I started in Scrubs over 20 years ago, doing the gritty, unseen work, and climbed my way to CEO. Every rung of that ladder taught me something worth passing on. Lessons in leadership, resilience, and what it really takes to rise. You'll hear raw conversations, unfiltered truths, and the kind of wisdom that ignites something deeper in you. Your courage, your conviction, your calling. This show will help you think bigger, lead better, and show up bolder in every part of your life. This is your place to grow. Let's rise together. You've heard his underdog story. No tech degree, no funding, just $2,000 and a bold idea that turned into a Shark Tank deal. But what happens after the breakthrough? In part 2, we go way beyond the highlight reel. Destin opens up about the emotional cost of scaling a company, the painful co-founder split that nearly shattered everything, and the mindset required to keep going when the world expects you to have it all figured out. This is the side of entrepreneurship that nobody glamorizes. The isolation, the identity crisis, the moments where faith and resilience are the only fuel you have left. If you're a leader, a builder, or someone chasing a vision that feels bigger than you, this conversation will speak directly to that part of you that wonders if you're really cut out for it. You are, and this episode proves it. Let's go ahead and hop into it. You've not gotten as far as you have by being passive. You cold emailed the CEO of Niantic and landed a $50,000 grant. Like that is that type of what Scott would call outlier mentality, right? That's an audacious move. What would you share with other leaders about learning to step into courage and asking for what they want in the moment?
I would say a lot of things. The one thing I would say is that don't be afraid to fail publicly because most people don't care. Like there's always that feeling of, oh, I don't want to try this thing because if I fail, it's going to be such a public loss. Oh, if I quit my job and I go try to start this company, even more than like the security blanket of the money and all that, it's, oh, if I have to go get a new job, people are like, oh, see, I told you so. You're just like the rest of us. You're not better than us. The nail gets hit by the hammer, the rusty wheel gets the oil, blah, 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 whatever. And I think that stops a lot of people. They're afraid to put it out there and to try something bold because if it doesn't work out, they're afraid of the shame. They'll feel like it's a hit on their self-worth as an individual. And my argument would be that nobody really cares, man. You can go out there and try something big, and if it doesn't work out, maybe people might say something about it for a day or a week. But the way the news cycle is, everybody's got their own issues. They'll be on something new within a couple of days. And you have so much to gain and so little to lose that being courageous and bold and confident in what you want out of life, as long as you're willing to actually see those big ideas and statements through, it's so much worth it. It's so much more worth it than to just have those ideas and be afraid to chase them.
Yeah, I tell my boys, I've got 2 boys there, 14 and 17, and very different personalities. But obviously that age, like there's a real sense of like peer pressure and what everybody else is doing and this persona that I have to uphold. And I always tell them the best part of life that you can learn is that you're not that important. And I don't mean by way of like, in my eyes, we feel like, oh my gosh, if I fail, everything, worst case scenario is everybody laughs at me. I look like this. But to your point, we're really not that important where somebody is, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see that person fail, or I can't wait to see that person trip up. More people are like, dang, I can't believe you tried that. I think
Yeah, right?
that's more, yeah. And so the point in life when we realize we're not that important. I think we're all trying to do the very best. Sometimes some of us are a little bit more bold than others. Sometimes we find ways to get so curious that you refine that process and you learn a better in. But that is such an important part of life, is recognizing that fact.
Right. Because, okay, somebody says, I told you your business idea wasn't going to work out. I mean, so, like, what really changes in your life at that point if they say that?
Right.
Are they making $50 million a year and sold a company for $1 billion and doing all this crazy stuff? No, they just have a normal 9 to 5 job. Like, are you trying to aspire to be best friends with this person? Do you really care about that high school bully you haven't seen in a decade who's going to see you at high school reunion and say, I told you that company idea wasn't going to work out? Like, respectfully, who cares what his opinion is? I don't really care. And then if you succeed, then they really not gonna say nothing because, you know, he's probably gonna ask you for a job. Like, who cares, man? You're just in a position where you're playing with house money. Either it works out or it doesn't. But the thing is, you only have to be successful one time. Even if you fail your company, you will have so much more time to try again. And you only gotta succeed once. You only gotta sell a company for a lot of money one time.
That's
And
right.
then once you do that one time, or you just make a company that generates a lot of cash, you only have to do it one time. As long as you're smart with your money, once you get that one win, even if you might not ever hit billionaire status or be the richest man in the world and get $30 billion AI deals with the government like Oracle just did and all that, you will have enough money to live a very comfortable life. And you will be able to live off of that, and generations will live off of that for the rest of your life if you're smart with it. And that's more than the majority of people can say. And that's what I'm focused on. Even if cardio isn't my unicorn, I'm going to learn these lessons, make my money, and I'm going to roll that over into the next one. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get the one that just clicks. And then that day, I'm gonna go sit back, relax, hang out with my kids and my wife, and then I'm gonna just passively invest my money and just let the young people hustle while I make investments in what they're doing and hopefully make the big VC money down the line.
There we go. Turning fitness into a turf war is genius, but it certainly wasn't easy. What was the biggest leadership challenge in building cardio that nearly broke you? And how did you find your way through it?
Alignment of right people, alignment of the right people on your team. That is something that even today I still struggle with because you have this vision of what you want to do. And I will say this is the one issue that I have with my leadership style is because of the fact that I want people to believe in what we're doing and I want everybody to be in alignment is that sometimes trying to get a group of people herded in the same direction with very strong opinions in different directions can slow down progress. Like, hey, I think we should build these features. Here's why. And then another person on my team who I respect tells me, well, I think we should focus and prioritize this for these reasons. And they're all very sound in their own rationale. And now it becomes this judgment on your end on, okay, should I compromise in the middle and have like a half measure that doesn't really accomplish either to make the team happy? Do I negate my own opinion to make my team happy? Or do I just say, I don't care what you guys think. This is what I believe. And we go down that path and they haphazardly, half heartedly build it. And then if it doesn't work it out, then there's this lack of trust in me as a leader to make the right decision for the team. So just finding the team that's aligned for what it is that you want to accomplish and having you guys paddling in the same direction. Because we're both paddling this canoe and we're paddling hard, but I'm paddling left and you're paddling right. Well, now we're just turning in circles. We're not making any progress. So that's the hard part is just getting everybody in sync and aligned to accomplish the same goal and agreeing with each other on the best way to accomplish that goal.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is rarely linear. Was there a moment ever that you thought, maybe I should not do this? Maybe I should throw in the towel altogether? And what pulled you away from that kind of mentality and back into the heat of it?
Oh, I had that moment like right before Shark Tank. So my
Wow.
CTO had left the company. He got married. He's living in New York with his wife, and she said, "I want you to have more job security and make more money." And obviously, as startups, you can't just be like, "Oh, here's $100,000 raise now that you live in Midtown New York and have a condo." You can't do that. So he needed to make more money, and so he left, and that was a difficult process because we've been working together for 2 years, and he was my only engineer on the team. And obviously, hard to have a technical product without a technical person working on it in house. So then that led to issues with my investors on who they sided with and if they wanted to continue to invest and support what we were doing. I had to go find a new engineer. I had to deal with a co-founder buyout. So I had to pay him to quit, which is like the craziest idea in the world to me. But I had to pay him to leave the company. Then all this other, drama and nonsense that came from that. And it got to a point after all these months of litigating the buyout and then trying to find a new CTO, but not really finding anybody that was aligned in our goals and my culture, and then also at the price point that I wanted, but with the skill set that I needed. It just got to a point where I feel like, man, I just am tired. I'm just tired of this. I don't know if I want to keep doing it. And, luckily I just kept pushing and I was able to find some more people. And then I actually ended up getting reached out to by Shark Tank, and that really turned things around. But yeah, that was a really tough process because you spend all this time building something and you got this person. And, you know, in a lot of ways, having a co-founder in a startup is like getting married, and when you have this big divorce, it just changes everything. Like, who's gonna take the kids, and how do I go back out there and start dating again, and all that. It was that same type of idea for me in my business. Like, dang, like, okay, well, how do I go about getting them off the cap table? And then how am I gonna find another engineer? And can I find an engineer that's able to do all he can do at the price point he was willing to take? And then if he takes too much money on this buyback, then I'm not going to have enough ability to hire somebody and pay them what they would like to pay. That's a bad signal to the investors. How do you, like, when you say, how do you tell your kids you're getting a divorce? How do you tell your investors you're getting a divorce? Because they invested in you as a team, and now half the team is not here anymore. So, it was a very difficult process, and it was a very stressful couple of months, but, we were able to get past it, find new talent, and, we survived. But that was a very tough process.
It reminds me of like those who start with us may not finish with us. There are these times in life, and I equate it a lot to evaluating what's serving you in the moment. And there may be seasons of life like where people come in where things are going well, and then kind of the next season where you may have to shed some of the things that aren't serving you. And I think the hardest part of that is it's the familiarity of holding on to things sometimes. But so
Right.
one of the hardest things to let go of is people, because we went into it with a mentality of like, all right, this is kind of my ride or die. We're going to create this together. I'm sure you thought in the moment. How did you
Right.
process the loss of that?
Yeah, I mean, I felt betrayed in the moment. I remember the conversation we had. We hopped on a Zoom call, and he said, "Look, man, I just don't feel like I believe in this to be able to get to a point in the relative near term for me to be able to keep doing this full time. I think I just want to go and get a job." And, we've been working on this for a year and a half. We have been staying up 2 in the morning, coding, doing user interviews, looking at other products, making comparisons, planning out the future, raising capital. We had these big wins. Our first VC check, we were together in Kentucky, flew in to have a meeting with our lead investor. And then I gone to New York and met his wife and his family, and they become like my family. And we had all these big wins and losses together, but we were always together. And so when that moment came where it's like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, well, part of you takes it personal. Like, oh, well, this was my child. And then I brought you into the fold and you're leaving. And now I feel like, dang, did I let you down? Did I do something that made you feel like you can't believe in me enough to want to stick this out? you know? Then you also think, okay, once you get past that first level of acceptance of it, and no, it's not your fault. That's how things are. It's like, well, okay, now on a practical, tactical level, well, now what do I do? I didn't just bring you on board because I like your personality. I needed you. I needed you to do this job. Now you're not doing this job. How do I go about finding somebody to do this job? How do I package this to my investors? And it's not just like, oh, you know what? I'm a the most eligible bachelor in the world. We are still a startup. We're still figuring ourselves out. I can't just go to Andreessen and say, hey, I need another 10 million to hire a great CTO, and they wire it to me a week later. We're still in the prove it phase of our business, and you don't want to be in a prove it phase with a major shakeup to the reason that they even invested in you in the first place. So now you got to think about how you package all that and all these different aspects while you're dealing with the general emotional betrayal and this feeling like everything is just changing and shifting under you, and this there's a lot of complex emotions. It was a very difficult process. There's not really an easy way to go through that, but the main thing I focused on was this idea was something that I had built without you initially. You joined this team. It wasn't that we made it from the ground zero together. I made it. I reached out to you. You joined. Now we actually have a product. We have users. We have revenue. We have investors. We have all this stuff. I know I can find another person who would be willing to work on this. And this company is bigger than you. It's bigger than me, So I kept that in mind, and I just remembered every day as an opportunity for me to get things back on track. And one of these days that's going to happen. And one day it did happen.
Cardio isn't just about fitness. It pulls in the sense of community and competition, the gamifying of it. How do you think leaders can take, even just through your experiences, to create movements, not just like products or things, right? To like really actually create some sense of emotion inside of there.
Well, it goes right back to what I was talking about before, the why. People don't use products because they like products. People use products because they are trying to gain something from it. You know, people aren't listening to this podcast because they just like listening to podcasts. They're trying to get something from it. They're trying to learn about leadership and how to evoke greatness in themselves and hear stories that inspire them and teach them something. And, cardio is the same way. With me, I didn't think, oh, I'm making an app that makes it fun for people to run. I mean, obviously, on the very tertiary level, yeah, sure. But when we're thinking about it deeper, what are people really doing? Like, oh, people have these dreams and goals. I want to be healthier. I hate movement and I don't like the way that my body feels when I'm outside struggling and suffering. And I feel like a loser because I'm using Strava and Garmin and I'm comparing my 15-minute mile run to people who do marathons at a 6-minute pace. I don't wanna feel that way. I wanna feel better about myself, and I wanna try to enjoy the process of getting to that point. I wanna love the way I look in the mirror, and I know that this is a part of it, and here's a way that I can leverage an enjoyable time to accidentally get in shape, basically. That was the idea of what we were doing. Like, accidentally making cardio fitness so fun that you actually start liking it and start seeing those improvements in your life that you want. People wanna feel like they're a part of a community. That's one of the reasons why Strava and other platforms are so popular. So when we went about making this, it wasn't just you as an individual competing against individuals, you were joining a team of individuals to become a community in your own right and being a part of that community and holding each other accountable and having these community friendly competitions that all are layered in the fact that we are all holding each other accountable to reach this goal that we all want, which is to live a healthy, active lifestyle. And I look at everything I do that way. What is the why? What is the jobs to be done of this product, of this service, of this community, of this podcast, of this content? Who is it serving beyond just this general KPI funnel to this and that? What are they really trying to get at?
When you think about legacy, because I think meaning to you sounds like it really means something. Like you really try to put in something meaningful to what you're doing, and that's intentional. I'm curious, when you think about legacy, what do you want to leave? Not just with cardio, but with your life. What do you hope people will say about the way you showed up and the way you led?
Man, again, like I could say so many different things to that for the sake of brevity. I think I look at it in three different categories. So I look at it as my family, other entrepreneurs, and then just people in general. So for my family, I want them to remember me as the person who took meaningful risks in his life to create generational wealth and legacy of our last name. I want to be the person where we went from a family of college dropouts and people who weren't very healthy and people who are paycheck to paycheck or working jobs they didn't really like to being able to have the flexibility and the power to go really seek these opportunities that we want, who are actively contributing and creating every single day and living a life where it's not scarcity, but it's a life of abundance. That's what I would like my family to remember me from, like 3 generations down the line. For entrepreneurs, I would like them to look at me as a beacon of hope of like, man, this dude started with nothing. He had $2,000. He was sleeping in his Kia. He moved to a city he didn't know anybody in the middle of COVID, and he came up with all these creative ideas in industries he had no experience in and was able to find positive outcomes. And that makes me feel like I can do the exact same thing for a dream that I have. and make them push through all the doubt and the negativity and the question marks and the trepidation and the anxiety and all the things that entrepreneurs feel before they take that first leap, and make them feel like, you know what, this guy, he's not better than me. You know, he's just some random 20-year-old from Kentucky and he was able to figure it out. Like, I could definitely do it if he can figure it out, because that's what I want them to know. I'm not special. I'm not special. I just was patiently aggressive in the process of figuring it out. And I think everybody who really wants it can do the same exact thing. And then for people in general, I think I just want them to feel like anything is possible. I want them to think that whatever dream you have, even beyond entrepreneurship, you just want to be a basketball player, you want to be an investor, you want to get your dream job at Google, you want to do whatever it is, that with enough effort and determination, you can accomplish anything. And, you know, if I can do those three things, then I would consider it a life well lived.
What advice would you give to, let's say, a 17 or 18-year-old, right? You're just wrapping up high school. You're trying to figure out life. You're not sure maybe what that next step is, but you have an entrepreneurial spirit. What
Yeah.
advice would you give someone? I love what you said about being patiently aggressive, because I think that's a really hard thing to actually do. What advice would you give? What
I
advice
struggle on.
would
I'm saying it. I'm like telling
Yeah,
myself, like, you're aggressive, but be patient. Work hard every day, but know it doesn't happen in a day.
right. So,
Yeah.
what advice for someone who they're not sure? They're not sure what's next. Maybe college isn't their thing, but they've got something in them that, like, they're willing. They're gritty.
Yeah. I would say to them, take however much time you need one day. Take a weekend or whenever you got the time. And I would literally, this is what I did when I was in high school, is that I would just sit down, and obviously, this is like over a decade ago. So I was on I was on pen and paper. Maybe they use ChatGPT or whatever nowadays, but like, take whatever you use for ideation and just write down every single thing that you think you might want to do. I've thought about being a developer. I've thought about being a sales rep. I thought about starting a company in the fitness space. I thought about starting a restaurant. I thought about getting a food truck. I thought about doing ecom. I thought about, being a content creator in the gaming space. I thought about Twitch streaming. I thought about whatever it is that you want to do. Anything you thought about, I would put it all on a piece of paper or in ChatGPT, and then I would dissect each of them. What are the skill sets that I need to accomplish these things? Which of those skill sets do I already have? Which ones do I know people who have them? And how passionate am I to accomplish this goal, even if I'm not getting paid for it for a while, even if it's not guaranteed? And then just try to like wait it out. Like, okay, you know what? I want to be a Twitch streamer. Well, I have an interesting personality. I already have a computer and I've got a webcam and I'm already really good at video games. That's something that's pretty low risk. There's not a lot of money up front for it. And it's something that I'm passionate enough about that if I did it for a year and not get paid for it, I would keep doing it. Whereas, oh, you know what? I just like food. I like cooking for my mom, but what I want to actually run a restaurant, like, that sounds cool, but the margins are thin. I don't know anything about inventory management. Then I gotta hire people, and turnover's so high, and the upfront cost to get a brick and mortar location so high, and I'm not passionate enough about it to want to see it all through. And then eventually, as you start really thinking through it, you're gonna realize, okay, here are the one or two things I actually care enough about that I would meaningfully put time for free into investigating. Then the next thing I would do is I would just look through my network. Who do I know, or who do I know that knows somebody who is in this space or knows something about this space? And I would just hit all of them up and start hopping on Zoom calls or taking them out to coffee and just picking their brain about everything that you should know about whatever that thing is. I want to be a Twitch streamer. I want to start an app. I want to be a sales rep at a pharmaceutical sales company. I want to be whatever it is you want to do. Learn as much about it as possible, figure out the blind spots, figure out the skill sets that you have in that space already, figure out the ones you don't, figure out what are the cheat codes, how can you skip line by leveraging and networking in that space. And then also, you're showing people who are in that space that you're hungry and you're ambitious. You go back to that same guy or girl 3 months later and they say, oh crap, he reached out to me in May. It's August. Now he's got a business plan. Now he's got a resume made. Now he's got experience. He's learned this. He took this course online and did that. He's learned, and they're like, oh, okay, he's serious. He's serious. Well, in that case, Now, let me put you in front of this guy. Let me put you here. Let me connect you to this person. Let me introduce you to those people. Let me put you in front of her board. Let me put you in front of his company that's hiring interns. And now you start getting in these opportunities through having radical transparency on this is what I want to accomplish and this is how I can go about accomplishing it. Here are the people who can help me accomplish it. And then start building that network, those skill sets, and then just get hungry, get aggressive, and then go out there and pursue it relentlessly.
Ooh, that was like a playbook. If you somehow were driving when you heard that, hit pause, go park, and re-listen to that, because I would say that not only serves the 17, 18-year-olds, of
Yeah.
maybe the kids of my audience, but that serves us. When we really think that intently about what we wanna do, people say like, "Oh, if you get a passion and follow that," and sometimes we have no idea what our passions are, or we have no idea how to make what we're passionate about actually work and be functional as a money-making career or to be able to monetize it. So that there were the steps for you right there.
Yeah.
Dustin, as we wrap up here, there's a question I always like to ask people at the end, and that is if it were your last day on earth and of all the things that you've learned, all the things you've been curious about and got the answer to, you could only impart one piece of advice to the world. What would it be?
It was my last day on earth. Oh man. Hmm. God, that's a great question. Oh man, I gotta think. Last day on earth, last piece of wisdom. I would say may I I mean, I guess this wouldn't be very valuable to people on their last day of earth, but if it's only my last day, not their last day,
Yeah.
I would say the only thing in life that is guaranteed is death. So make sure when it comes that you say you had a life worth living.
Mm, I love it. Awesome. Well, Dustin, thank you so much for joining and clearly just dropping gold nuggets and spitting wisdom right and left. And you do it so openly and you share so wonderfully and freely with people. I want to make sure we're going to have all this in the show notes, but where can people find you and follow you and just find out more about what you do?
Yeah, add me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. Destin George Bell on LinkedIn. If you're an Instagram folk, find me. The same name on Instagram as well. My ad is G Fortune underscore 500, and just reach out to me. If you run, download the app. Cardio. It's like the word cardio with a dot between the D and the I. So like car.io. If you're a runner, we'd love to have you. And just reach out. I'm always down to talk.
Hey, if you jumped straight into this episode and missed part one, do yourself a favor, go back. Because part one is where it all began, where Dustin took $2,000 and no tech experience and built cardio from the ground up. You'll hear how he DM'd 400 engineers just to find someone who would say yes. You'll hear his mindset and how it fueled him before anyone else believed. And you'll understand exactly why betting on yourself is the greatest risk and the greatest return. Tap back to episode 184, Proof That Anything is Possible When You Bet on Yourself, part one. It'll light a fire under you, I promise. If today's episode challenged you, moved you, or lit a fire in your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody who's ready to rise. Could I ask you to take 30 seconds to leave a review? It's the best way to say thank you and help this show reach more bold leaders like you. Because this isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. We're not here to play small. We're here to lead loud, one bold and unapologetic step at a time. Until next time, stay bold, stay grounded, and make moves that make mediocre uncomfortable.